Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another review. Today we have an SH Figuarts event exclusive, which was almost impossible to get your hands on, but somehow I managed to do so. Android 16. And like I mentioned, it was a pain in the butt to get it. If you weren't able to go to last year's New York Comic Con, then you just had to hope and pray that Premium Bandai did not crash. So I was able to add this and Goku to my cart before it did crash, so I'm glad that I was, as this was actually considered one of the grails in the line for a long time. A lot of people would say this was like their favorite figure or one of the best figures made in the line. So I always wanted it, of course, and I wanted it to match my androids and to fill out my Cell Saga display. But I wasn't going to pay $200 or $250 because the aftermarket was crazy on this guy. So I'm so happy that they re-released it and that I was able to get it. So without any further ado, let's take this guy out the box and let's see if he was worth the wait. All right, so here he is out the box onto the rotating platform. And first impressions are pretty good. I like the scale of the figure a lot. He's pretty big and hefty. Nice sculpt and musculature throughout. It's a pretty big and dominating figure, so I think that that's going to look great next to the androids, and very happy to check that out later in the comparisons. Also, there's a couple of things that maybe in the details might be lacking and in quality control that I do want to point out, because it's definitely not perfect, but it is a good figure for sure. And being an older figure, I mean, it is impressive. This is kind of like in the days of the 1.0 articulation, and this kind of stands above the rest. Like, it's definitely better than the rest of the first gen figures. So we'll check out the paint in detail and talk about quality control in a bit, because those are some things that I want to talk about. But let's check out the rest of the accessories first. So let's do that now. So in terms of accessories, he does bring this extra hand, it's an open hand, and he brings a right open hand, and that's pretty much it for the hands. Kind of surprised. Usually you get a lot more hands with SH Figuarts, like at least 4 or 5 different sets, but all you get is the fisted hands and then these open hands, so that's interesting. Now for the faces, we do get this portrait here, which is like a smirking face. Looks decent enough. And then we have this yelling face, which also looks pretty darn good. As well as the face that comes on the figure, which is like a mad face or something. And then of course we get the battle damage head, which this is pretty cool. I like the detail on this with the metallic insides, because he is an android. That looks really dope. And you can actually use this for when he's battle damaged and still alive, or you could just kind of lay this head out next to Gohan, like when Android 16 is destroyed, and it kind of like motivates Gohan to take out Cell. So that's pretty cool. And that's it for the accessories. I mean, really light on accessories, but it is what it is. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this guy now. Let's take a look at the face sculpt real quick, as I think they did a good job. This is one of the older figures, so it doesn't compare to some of the newer faces that they have been releasing, but I think for the time period, it still looks very good. It does resemble the character a lot, so I think they did a great job. The hair also looks very nice. It's nicely sculpted and painted. I'm digging that. Now, the sculpt of the figure and the proportions overall are great as well. I think he's nice and muscular and tall. He should be that way, and he should be towering over a lot of these characters. So I'm glad that they made him big and hefty. Also, the matte finish looks pretty darn good throughout. They used to give us matte finishes with these Dragon Ball SH Figuarts all the time, but now they haven't really been doing the matte finish as often. Maybe on some of them they have, but for the most part we get a lot of shiny plastic, and I think it looks better matte, so I'm glad that they did that. Now when it comes to The quality control, though, there are some issues, especially here in the green parts. As you can see here, it needs to be sanded down, and there's just so many imperfections in a lot of the spots here on the wrist as well. And on this one, the back here, if you take a look at the back and on the insides of these movable shoulder pad things, it's just all scuffed up. Here on the feet as well, there's some spots on the insides of the legs. So it's pretty universal throughout the green spots. There's a lot of those little things, and I can probably sand them down and make them look a little bit better, but really that shouldn't be there with the figure that costs so much. So that is one thing that's a bit frustrating. Also, the green needs some shading to it. It would look so much better if it just had a bit of like darker green shading throughout of it. It would just make it pop that much more. But yeah, overall, I still think they did a great job with the sculpt, and the paint is still great. It's just some of those plastic imperfections are annoying, but it is what it is. So let's go over the articulation now. And he can't look up too much because the head does hit there, but he can look down pretty darn good. And he can look to the side. Well, it's got a little bit of tilt as well for some attitude. Now, these shoulder pads are articulated so they can be moved out of the way and help with posing. So when you move the arms, you can close this in around it. I do like the way they did that. It doesn't hinder the articulation, and it allows it to look good still. So very nice. Arm could do full 360, and it can go up about that much, so that's very good. There's a swivel at the bicep. We've got a nice double bend at the elbow, and we've got a swivel and a bit of a hinge at the wrist. Can't get too much range on it, but a little bit. And now we have a swivel here at the chest, and then we've got a crunch as well, and this works very nice. Actually, I'm impressed by this. And the abs also crunch. Yes, they do. The abs crunch as well and have a swivel, so that works out nice. The legs can kick out about that far, and that's very good. There also are the drop down style, so you can actually get them to kick up a little bit more. The knees have a nice double bend, pretty good. It could be more, but it's decent enough for a big guy. And then we've got a swivel up at the quad, and at the boot, no, nothing at the boot. The ankle does not have much range at all because it's kind of like engulfed by this here, but it has a tiny bit of wiggle. And then there is also toe articulation. So overall, the articulation for being one of the older figures, it's pretty nice. It's limited in the ankles. It's where it's most noticeable, but I really like it for the most part. The chest and the abs, it all works pretty darn good. It also has a butterfly joint, somewhat of a butterfly joint. Kind of comes out and comes forward. The shoulder can also drop down and up. So the articulation's good. I like it. Let's see. Can he do the splits? Yeah, he can do the front splits. What about the side splits? Side splits, not so much with the side splits. It feels like I could break it. No. So front splits, yes. Side splits, no. Overall, good job with the articulation. For such a big dude, I am impressed. I can see why people like this guy so much and considered it like one of the better figures. For sure. Alright, so for scaling purposes, here he is next to Nappa, and here he is next to Goku. And I just checked. I think that Android 16 should be about 7 feet tall. And I thought he was taller than Nappa, but apparently Nappa should be about 8 feet tall. So the scaling is actually pretty good here. Good job with that. And for some more comparisons, here he is next to Gohan and Trunks. And I think those sizes also work out pretty good. And here he is next to Chaozu and Kid Gohan custom that I made. All right, so final thoughts on this figure. And I think it's actually a great figure. SH Figuarts really did a great job with this guy. I can see why a lot of people consider this to be one of the better figures in the line. It is actually very, very nice. And it's pretty much the same figure that they originally released. It's just slightly different colors, but it's all the same accessories and the same body and tooling, all the same stuff. So I think that it's great for being such an old figure, and it's aged pretty well. There are better figures now in the line, but being what it is, it does still hold up very nicely, and I am very happy that I picked it up. I recommend that if you can get your hands on it, it's just as good as the first release, if not better color-wise. So it's better than paying $200 for sure. So if you can get this one, definitely do it. But like I said, overall, they really killed it on this one. The articulation is great, and the matte finish is also very nice. The only thing that I don't like about it is that it doesn't have an assortment of hands. It only has those two-fisted hands and then those open hands, and then those little like imperfections around the green armor. That's pretty much the only thing holding this figure back. Also a little bit of limiting in the ankles, but aside from that, it's pretty darn good, and I really, really like it. So good job again, SH Figuarts. Even though this is a super old figure, I'm super glad that I was able to get it finally. So that's going to be it for this review, guys. I definitely dig them. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. Take care, and peace.